My podcast is called What Was That Like? And each episode is a conversation with a regular person who's been through some type of extremely unusual situation, like being shot in a mass shooting or surviving a plane crash or getting bitten by a rattlesnake or getting a deal on Shark Tank. Those are a few of the past episodes. So I have the guest come on the show and tell the story of what happened firsthand. And I wanted to mention that just because I'm going to be using some examples from my show as part of this process, so you'll know a little bit what it's about. What we're talking about today is leveraging Facebook to grow your podcast. And this is going to be using both paid and free methods. Now, I often hear people say, I tried posting on Facebook and it doesn't work. It's like no one ever sees it. And I'm sure that's true because it's what a lot of podcasters actually experience. But I found that by doing it in a particular way and using different features, it can be very effective. So we're going to talk about 3 methods, and even the paid one is so cheap that it's almost free. Method number 1 is the paid version. This is boosting a post. And you've probably heard that term or maybe seen it on Facebook. And boosting just means you create a post and then you pay Facebook to show it to a very specific group of Facebook users. That's the value of Facebook. You can show your boosted post just to people who are the most likely to be interested in it. When you have a podcast, there are a couple of things you can create. You can have a Facebook business page, or you can have a Facebook group. Now, for my podcast, I have both, but they're very different things. A Facebook group is like a community. People that are interested in your podcast can join the group. They can post things. They can discuss episodes. It's like a big discussion room. But when you post something in a Facebook group, it cannot be boosted. So hopefully lots of people in the group will see it, but you don't really have much control over that. A Facebook page is a different story. This is basically just a page that describes your business, or in this case, your podcast. You can post things there and people can follow that page so that they see when something new gets posted. But the big thing here is that when you create a post on your Facebook page, you can boost it. So what I do is this: I create a new post on my Facebook page for each episode, and then I boost it. And again, boosting just means you're paying Facebook to show it to more people. And the cost of boosting is whatever you want to budget for it. So we're going to go through a case study of one of my boosted posts so you can see how it's done and how you target the audience and how cost effective it is. And for this example, we're just going to say our budget is around $20. So before you create a post to boost, you have to do 2 things. First, I create 3 graphic images. Now, the episode of my podcast that we're talking about today is a story of someone who had their dog stolen, and they ended up getting that dog back 4 years later. Great story. But like I said, I create 3 images. Each of these are square. I make them 600 pixels square, and they each need to be different. The idea here is variety, and you'll see in a minute why that's important. So you can see each of these images is along the same theme. For the first one, that's an actual picture of the dog that got stolen. For the other 2, I just use a free background image that I got from a website called Unsplash. There's tons of free pictures there, unsplash.com. And you can't see it very well in these PowerPoint slides, but each of these images also has the website address for that episode down at the bottom. It says whatwasthatlike.com/94. And I'll explain that in just a minute. This is the image that I'm going to use for the boosted post. That's the first image in that series of 3. The second thing you need to do is to write the text that's going to be in the post with that image. And the text needs to be in this format. It's 3 short sections. These 3 sections are the podcast description, the episode description, and the call to action. So the first section is the podcast description. This is just a 1-sentence description about the podcast in general. Mine says, What Was That Like is a podcast featuring firsthand true stories of extremely unusual situations. So for people who are seeing this for the first time, which will be almost everyone, it tells them that it's a podcast and what the podcast is about in general. The second section is the episode description. This is a brief teaser that tells them what this episode is about, but you want to write it in such a way that it makes them curious. So in this one I wrote, it's pretty traumatic when a family dog or cat goes missing. When Barbie's dog, Scooby, couldn't be found, They suspected something worse, that he was stolen. So the third section is the call to action. And you don't want to put the website address here. We'll talk about that in a minute. I just write, find the podcast, What Was That Like, on your favorite podcast app, including Spotify. That's the whole call to action. And then you post that with the picture on your Facebook business page. And right under that post, after you've posted it, you'll see that Facebook is offering you the opportunity to boost that post. So you click on Boost Post. And now you'll see a few questions to answer. So the first one is, what is your goal? In other words, when someone sees this post, what do you want them to do? You can say you want to have them click a link, or what I usually do is I want to get engagement. I want people to click the like button or comment on the post, or maybe even click to share it. Next question is, who do you want to see this post? Based on gender and age. So for my podcast, I know my audience is mostly women, and they're between the ages of 35 and 55. So those are the selections that I choose. Next up, geographical. You can choose any country, or you can be specific about a particular state or city. And for me, my listeners are mostly in the US, so I chose that. And now we want to target people who would specifically be interested in this episode. And that's dog lovers. That's who would want to hear this story. So you just type the word dog and all kinds of options come up. You can choose as many as you want. Then you tell Facebook how many days you want this post to be boosted. So in this case, I just chose 7 days. And finally, you decide how much you want to spend. So for this one, I chose $22. So they're going to spread that $22 out over the 7 days. Then you also have to tell them, do you want it to show up just on Facebook, or do you want it to be shown on Instagram also? And now you wait, because the boosted post has to be approved by Facebook before it can go live. And this is usually pretty quick. All of mine have gotten approved in the same day, and you'll get an email, usually after even a couple hours maybe, you'll get an email when it's approved and when it goes live. So that's what's going to happen over the next 7 days. All of the preferences we entered are going to be used to determine who sees that post. So after the 7 days is up, Facebook shows you the results of what happened. Actually, you can check the results throughout the week, but this is how we ended up with this one. There were a total of 2,318 people that Facebook showed that post to, and out of those, 714 actually engaged, meaning they liked or commented or shared it. So with the $22 spent, that means the cost per engagement is just 3 cents each. I think that's a pretty good deal. But there are 2 more results, and these are results that Facebook, what we just looked at are what Facebook can quantify. There are a couple of types of things that Facebook can't measure because they don't even know about it. The first of those is people who see the ad and they read the very first line that says, "What was that like as a podcast?" And if the post looks interesting, they may or may not click to like it, but they also might just pull up their podcast app on their phone and search for the podcast there. And of course, those people would not show up anywhere in Facebook's analytics. And the other people are those who see the website address for that episode embedded in the image. And they just go to their web browser and go straight to that episode that way. And again, Facebook would not know how many people did that. So that's the basics of boosting a post on Facebook. Now we're going to method number 2, and this is self-promotion groups, self-promo groups. And please be aware, we're not talking about spamming Facebook groups with your podcast. These are groups that literally encourage you to promote your podcast to all the other members of the group. So you're not breaking any rules. And this is an example of one. I'm familiar with this one because I created it, but there are lots of them. Now, I know what you're thinking already. Aren't these groups just filled with podcasters and all they want to do is promote their own podcast? Well, here's my answer to that. Yes, that's who's in these groups. And of course, I don't want all those promotions from all those podcasters flooding my Facebook news feed. So I join the group and then I immediately unfollow it. So I'm still a member of the group and I can still post my promotions in the group, but I don't see all the other stuff that gets posted. And you'll likely want to do the same thing. But guess what? Not everyone is like you and me. Lots and lots of people scroll through these groups, and some of them will see your promotional posts and find your podcast. And some of them are going to be new listeners. I get new listeners every single time, and I obviously wouldn't waste my time if it wasn't effective. But the biggest critical factor in making this work is how you create your posts. The vast majority of people in these groups do it the wrong way, and that's why they never get any results or engagement at all. Now, this post is an example of that. All it says is new show alert. Well, guess what? Nobody cares about that. And it says, you all know what it is. Well, no, we don't know what it is because nobody knows what this is about. And this post literally got no engagement and no comments ever. In contrast, let me show you how I create a post in these groups. And this is another group where you can do this. It's called No Rules Podcast Group. Post anything you want. That's pretty clear. So whenever I have a new episode, this is one of the places that I post. Every post I do has 3 short paragraphs, and you might recognize this from what we were talking about before. The first one is to tell about the podcast in general. This way, people have a good idea of what the show is about overall, and that paragraph never changes. The second short paragraph is to tell about this episode, so they know what I'm specifically promoting in this post. And the third one is the call to action. And it's just search for the podcast name on any podcast app or go to the website shown in the image. This is why we put that website address for this episode in the image. You never want to include a website in the text of your post. Facebook doesn't want you sending people to other sites away from Facebook. That means if you have a URL included in your post in the text, Facebook penalizes that, and your post won't show up in many news feeds. But if the URL is embedded in the image, Facebook doesn't see that in the text. But a human being can read that, and they can go to that website address if they want to. And of course, you'll always need a picture. This is one of the 3 images I used for this particular episode. And with the text I just showed you, this post got 15 likes and 12 comments. And of course, when Facebook sees that a post is getting good engagement, they show it to more people. It's like a snowball effect. And now we just scale that process. What I just described, I do this for over 90 Facebook groups every time I put out a new episode. These are some of the Facebook groups that I post to. I'll stay on this slide for about 10 seconds if you want to go ahead and jot those down real quick. Just kidding. At the end of this, I'll have my contact information so you can message me and I'll send you this list if you want. And you might be thinking, wow, that's going to take a lot of time. Well, guess what? You can invest your time into growing your podcast, or you can invest money and pay someone else to do it. But the reality is it doesn't really take that long because I have a system. Of course, before you do any posting, you have to join each of these groups. So you have to do that first. But this is my system. Here's what I do. I use the Chrome browser, and on the bookmarks bar, you just create a folder called Facebook Podcast Free, or whatever you want to call it. And as I join each group, I bookmark each one of them and I put them in that folder. So for 90 Facebook groups, I actually have 3 folders of 30 groups each. We'll just go through the process for one folder here today, but it's the same process for each one. So on new episode day, you do a right click on that folder and you choose to open all 30 groups. So each one is open in its own tab. Now, this might take a minute because Chrome is literally opening 30 websites all at the same time. So it might take a minute or two. So you go to the first tab, which is the first Facebook group you're going to post to, and you click to create a post. You've done this 1,000 times. You know how this works. And you copy and paste the text of your post. And you only have to copy it once because you're going to be pasting the exact same text in every one of these posts. It's those 3 paragraphs that we talked about earlier. Then you click to add image number 1, the first one. Then you go to the second tab, create a post, paste your text, and add image number 2. Then for the third tab, you do the same thing, but with image number 3. And we rotate through these 3 images for variety, because some people who see your posts are going to be members of more than one group. Then you close those 3 tabs and you do the same thing for the next 3. And you just keep doing that until all the tabs are closed and you're done with that group. So you just promoted your new podcast episode to thousands of people and it cost you $0. And if you've done it right and your content is interesting, you'll start getting notifications that people are already liking it or commenting on it. And here's something else. When someone comments, always reply. Facebook sees that as more engagement and shows your post to more people. So when someone comments something like, yeah, that podcast sounds interesting, I always reply with, hey, if you listen, I'd love to hear what you think of it. So that's method number 2. Now we go to method number 3. It's kind of similar to number 2, but not quite. This one involves local Facebook groups. These are not podcast-oriented groups at all. And I'm just going to use a case study for this one. I'm here in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, and there's a city near me called Palm Harbor. And so there's a Facebook group called Palm Harbor Happenings. And currently it shows 28,000 people in the picture there, but that's old. There are over 31,000 people in that local group now. So this is mostly for local stuff. People ask about recommendations for a new dentist, who's a good realtor, that kind of thing. And anyone in the group can post stuff like that, and anyone can answer those questions. But you can't just start spamming the group with your podcast promotion. Just about all the groups like this have rules. And obviously, all the local businesses want to post and advertise their business because this group is full of their potential customers. And by the way, this group is also full of people who listen to podcasts. But always check the rules. Now, for this one, business posts are only allowed 1 day a week on Mondays. Well, guess what? My podcast is my business. So I post in there on Mondays. I have a new episode coming out every other Friday. And on the following Monday, this group knows about it. And it's not difficult. I just have a Google Calendar reminder that pops up every other Monday right after one of my new episode Fridays. And that reminder has a link directly to that group. So I never forget to do it. And I'm always 100% in compliance with the rules of that group. Now, for groups like this, I do customize the text of the post slightly. I like to mention the fact that I create the podcast from my home office right here in Little Safety Harbor. That way people know that I'm local and they might just be a little more interested in checking out what I'm posting about. And here, guess what? Here's the fun part. That's just one local group. There are groups like this all over Florida, and I know because I've joined a ton of them. And it doesn't matter where you live, anywhere. There are groups like this all around you. My little city of Safety Harbor only has a population of 17,000, and there are at least a half dozen of these groups. So what I love about these processes is that they are all manual labor. You have to search and find the groups, then you have to join, then you have to post, and you got to make sure you follow all the rules. But guess what? That work is the barrier to entry. Most people won't do it, or they won't do it consistently. They'll try it for a couple of weeks and then just kind of fade out. If you're willing to do this and put in the time that it takes, that's your edge. And that's one of the things that will grow your show. So for me, posting in Facebook groups is just part of my routine on the day I release a new episode, and it definitely pays off. So this is my contact information. So if you want to drop me an email, I'll send you a PDF document that has the clickable list of free Facebook groups, and I'm happy to answer any questions.